Hi everyone, it's me. I wanted to do a little lesson today. I'm reading out of the book Rachel Pollack, 78 Degrees of Wisdom, a Tarot Journey to Self-Awareness, a new edition of the Tarot Classic. Okay, so here's what's interesting. I was pondering in regards to a certain matter, right? Like, all right, let's get real here. What's the deal with the situation? Because it's something like when you do readings in general, you disassociate from the whole reading to the point where you're not really asking for yourself anymore. You're acting on the behalf of a collective. Like, in general, what are these energies? But to sit with your own stuff and to sit with your own self and say, how do I fit into this story? Like, where am I in regards to the story? Personally, when it comes to, these characters or these situations, like specifically, let's get specific now. Because once you see the general, now you got to put in the specifics to fill in the blanks kind of thing, right? So I was doing that, and what I realized was like, let me look at the book and see how it answers. But being that the question was like multifaceted, because like I said, you're filling in the blanks, you're asking the details now. How do you get the answer out of a reading? So when I opened the book, guided by spirit to just open the book where it does, I got to the 5. And just the first paragraph kind of embodies exactly what that experience is. So it says, the various meanings for this card illustrate again that problem of certitude discussed in the section on readings. How can we know for sure which meaning will apply in a real-life situation? At the same time, the meanings show the way in which a situation can turn in very different directions. So exactly, how can you know when you ask a very, when you ask a very specific question and you give very broad answers, it's difficult to even see. It feels very vague. But when you have a broad perspective, you can then see all the small things that are occurring and see where they fit. So you're giving yourself room to see the bigger picture of a matter. But if you only see the bigger picture of a matter and you don't see the details, it becomes very disconnected, or it becomes very detached in a certain way. And maybe it's a good thing, because if I would prefer to have the expanded view, because that's where you anchor yourself in the truth. You see it's like you got the bigger vision, you got the purpose, you got the ideal, and that anchors you, because no matter what, as you're going through your process in the details to get to those goals, you're kind of realizing what doesn't work. So it really is like sculpting your sculpture. You got this big rock, and now you can chisel away at it, and it's like you could do anything with all of that. But if you start at the small and try to create this large structure, you might not get to if you don't even know what you're building, you can get exhausted before you even start. So anyway, why did I say all that? To say, okay, let's see what else the book has to say, because I want to get to the core of the question that I was asking, because I really do want to know what I want to know. So The 5 illustrates conflict and loss of some kind. In terms of pentacles, this means, first of all, material troubles, such as poverty or illness. Sometimes it implies a long-standing hardship. Observe that the people, though bent and crippled, are surviving. This card may indicate love, especially that of two people holding together in a bad situation. It may turn out that hardship has become one of the major factors keeping them together, so that relief from their material troubles may strain their unity, or they may think this will happen and therefore fear change. Oh, yikes. Can we take that in for one moment, please? In regards to when you're asking a question and how you can decipher the meaning in your real life situation, you ask, you must know the very detailed thing that you want to understand, but you must also understand the bigger purpose for which you want to understand it, so that it can make more sense. You have to, it's like the ability to see it personally and then to see it globally, or to see it generally. Most people just focus on the personal, so when you talk in the general, they really can't get out of the personal. They're just like, they're only hearing their own judgments. They're only hearing their own resistance. They're only hearing their own pain. Why am I saying that? Because I want to get to this question. Hold that thought. I'm going to go back to that statement, because the conflict and loss of some kind, the fact that we have questions about something, the fact that something seems hard to receive, or the fact that there is, let's say in terms of love, I mean, it could be in terms of money also, but realistically, why do people get readings? It's usually because of a relationship or about their money, and that really is what it comes down to. And their money either is, nobody, when they're in a very happy mood, they want to come here that they're going to continue to stay in a happy mood, or they fear that they're going to lose it. Or they'll come when they're in a very bad mood and are hopeful that something good is coming, or validation of why things are wrong or bad. So from that context, when you consider why something that you want, like what you should do about something that you want but you don't feel is already there, or you don't feel you've received what you're asking for, okay? So the 5 illustrates conflict and loss of some kind. In terms of pentacles, this means, first of all, material troubles. So it's like, why don't you have what you want? You can't get it. And then you'll realize, what does it take to get it? Oh, it takes energy, or it takes money, or it takes being able to pay the price, or having what it takes to open that door, or that opportunity being open to you. So that's what material troubles is about. It's like, can I materialize what I want? Do I have the materials to create what I want? Are my materials always in scarcity? Like, why am I not productive if I'm not? Why am I not abundant if I'm not? So, like, I'm really, really looking at that, such as poverty or illness. Like, those conditions of poverty and illness, that is a very, very sore spot for many, myself included. When you're conditioned, and you know that it's a condition that you're fighting against, if you found yourself fighting against a condition that doesn't work for you, that you know, why I don't belong here, right? It's it's the lesson that it's showing you is what changes your reality. So understanding that the vibration that you're in, whether you like it or not, whether you accept it or not, whether you see it or not, you don't have to understand the bigger picture to know that in the small experience of it all, you already know this doesn't feel good for me. I don't agree. It's basically saying, I don't agree with this. Nope, I'm not satisfied here. Nope, I'm not happy with this. Nope, I don't feel right like this. Nope, my well-being does not feel at its best here. Whatever here is, whether it's this thought, whether it's this feeling, whether it's this perspective, whether it's this, dealing with this conversation, but you cannot just get to the point of saying that you don't agree with it. You have to get to the point of saying, if it's truly about survival, then it would be to separate and get yourself together. Because if it's about survival, you go into isolation. And I guess that applies for illness. You hibernate. You go into some kind of cocooning. You go into some kind of recuperation space. Or you go into some kind of shelter in order to recoup and recover or redeem or replace or whatever it takes to reinforce. Listen to all the REs there. Oh my God, I just heard, this is hilarious. Because I was saying that, but then I was also going to say readings. Even though, it's not a two-syllable. Okay, readings is not the same as reinforced. Hold on. And so, but when you look at if it was the same way, dings. So to ding again, as in to get a ding, as in to have to bump your head. I know that sounds ridiculous, but understand what I'm saying. It's like to do over again a mistake. To do over again a thing that has proven itself to be unfruitful for you. How can you walk away from something and say, okay, when do you give up? Basically, when do you give up on a matter? Never. You never give up on a matter that really is of value to you or of no use to you. Did I say that correctly? Hold on. Let's assume it's a thought that's negative. Is it working for you? If it's working for you, keep it. I don't know how, but if it works, keep it. And if it doesn't, don't accept it. But now I'm looking at in terms of a seed that you plant and you're expecting fruit from, or crops or whatever to sprout. Let's say it's a new seedling or something that you don't even know. There's no literature out there on it. You're the first to do it. And you planted this beautiful seed that in your vision, it's going to produce the most beautiful fruit and plant, whatever, right? You can, as I'm not an agriculturist, I cannot give the best metaphors of that. But I love nature. So whatever you're going to produce, you have this beautiful vision of it. And now you're just doing this with your, on the table. Okay, I'm waiting. And you're just watching it, waiting for it to grow, waiting for it to grow. And it's what do you do in those moments? Do you get mad? Do you walk away? Do you say, I don't want this? Do you know how many times I've huffed and puffed and walked away and then come back and be but I don't want to walk away. Why the hell am I walking away? But And it's because it's not happening on your timetable. It's like you cannot force or you cannot control a situation to happen on your timetable. And you cannot force another's free will. And sometimes, whether we want to believe it or not, we try to do that when we are trying to contain our world in order to our vision, or our comfort level, I should say, to our comfort level. But that vision requires courage to actually get out of a certain comfort level. And and people think sometimes, like, they don't understand the conviction to say, oh, I want to be independent, or oh, I want to be free. It requires a certain level of courage, and it requires a certain level of adventures to go through in life. And those adventures, when you only imagine it as a thing out there, but to actually live certain things, certain experiences, and be like, fuck, I survived that, or shit, I went through that. It's like when you have a story to tell, or when you have a experience that was a triumph of overcoming or being challenged by life in a way that, in the face of adversity, many can only imagine and not actually know what it is to go through something. So anyway, geez Louise, let's see. Let's continue reading here. Fearing change. Remember, that's where we left off. Or they may think this will happen and therefore fear change. So notice that they are passing a church. Now, as a place of sanctuary, the church represents rest and relief from the storm. The people, however, do not see it. Human beings can get used to anything, and when they do, they will often not see opportunities for change. They will even resist an end to their problems. If we compare these people with the kneeling beggars of 6, we see that 5 represents pride and independence, sometimes to a foolish degree, when help is genuinely offered. As we examine the card more closely, we can discover alternative, even opposed meanings. The card shows no door to that church. As with many real churches today, which lock their doors like businesses at 5 p.m., this church has perhaps shut the people out. The sanctuary has failed. We see, first of all, a comment on modern religion, which may feel has failed in the task of giving comfort and healing to people's troubled souls. On a simpler level, in many countries, the churches have grown rich at the people's expense. Again, compare the 5 with the 6. The merchant there may symbolize the modern secular church, giving what material assistance it can or will, while the people's spiritual needs go unattended. We can call the previous paragraph the sociological interpretation of the doorless church. If we shift the emphasis to the people, we can see a psychological view. Sometimes we may find ourselves in a situation where outside forces, social institutions, family, friends, etc., cannot help us, and we must struggle against the problems on our own. We can extend this idea of a magic or occult interpretation. In part 1 of this book, it's discussed how the magician, by setting out on a course of personal development, pits him or herself against the established church, which traditionally acts as an intermediary between human beings and God. The choice may bring practical as well as political consequences. If the magician encounters dangerous psychic forces, then traditional religion cannot, let alone will not, help him or her overcome them. Compare the 5 of Pentacles with the Hierophant, number 5, in the Major Arcana. There, 2 applicants submit to a doctrine that guides them in all situations. Here the people have rejected such doctrines or have simply found them irrelevant. There's so much in that. And I would love to share my personal experience and personal opinions on this. I really would. But I don't want to take up too much of your time. I will let that marinate for you because, again, when I began, the purpose of reading this passage was because I wanted to get to the bottom line of understanding. Like, when you really ask God, when you ask the universe, when you are in, I want to manifest this experience or this thing, I want this dream to come true, or I want this experience, or I want to meet this, or I want to have that, or I want to, whatever it is that you feel like, oh, I want to experience this thing. I feel this would be the next thing for me, right? You come into a certain kind of conflict within your own experience. And in order to get guidance, okay, we have to be willing to see the bigger picture and then the actual experience simultaneously to understand how our vibration has to shift, and understand why you're in a certain vibration before you can shift into a space that is more aligned to where you're heading or where you're going or what you're wanting. Anywho. Okay, the reversed says, it gives the meaning of chaos, disorder, ruin, and confusion. This suggests that the situation right side up has collapsed. The people are no longer surviving. While the immediate situation may seem much worse, it can sometimes lead to improvement. When people accustom themselves to suffering, a collapse may release them. Whether they now can build something more positive depends partly on themselves and partly on the influence of opportunities around them. Okay. That was... All right. So, the lesson for today has been, when you feel uncertain about where something is going, something that you're wanting, something that you want to see manifest, something that you want to see grow. It could be a relationship, like, where is this relationship going? Or where is my career moving towards? Like, when you're at a place in your life that you become curious about, like, you know, why aren't things working the way I want them to right now? And if they're not, how can they work for me now? How can I turn this situation around for me? And what is it exactly? Where is this actually going? But in order to get those answers, you have to be willing to remember that purpose. What is it exactly that you want to know? What is it exactly that you want to understand? And then really be willing to look at the personal situation and fill in the details. So this is about receiving guidance. It's like when you go to that church, when you have one of these existential crisis kind of questions in your spirit that says, do I stay in this marriage? Do I stay at this job? Do I switch careers? For some people it could be, do I cut my hair? Like, I mean, I don't know how, like, you know, do I have this conversation? Fear can really manifest in ways where it keeps you limited, in a way where you can't really you can't know unless you make a decision, right? So you have to make a certain kind of choice. And that's where the chaos and disruption may come, because once you make a certain choice, some choices will start to spiral quickly. And so it's like we have our own measures of slowing things down just so that we have time to process, so that we have time to understand, so that we have time to see, is this where I want things to go? Are things going at a comfortable pace? Are things moving too fast? Or why aren't things moving at all? But when it comes to something that we want to see manifest, that we want to see to come to fruition, you want it to be something that is understood fully before you embark upon, because once you're there, okay, I have the perfect way to explain this. Just like in school, when you go from, 8th grade to 9th grade, for example, you're not going to feel very confident or comfortable going into the 9th grade if you haven't felt that up to the 8th grade you have a good foundation, that you have a good, that you feel you know where you're standing in terms of what you're grounded upon, if you understand what I'm saying. So from that point, when you go to the 9th grade, when you explore, and it's going to take flight, and when it takes flight, you're going to find yourself prepared or not prepared. And for many, we might over prepare when it comes for a test at school, and then we realize, okay, we passed. Others of us may not prepare at all and not really think about what the consequence might be in terms of getting the things that we want, or getting to the next level that we want to experience. So it's like, why? How do I put this? Because it could be on such a superficial level. Like, I just want that money so I could buy some clothes. But it can be on a bigger level, like serious manifestation, like this next relationship could change your entire life for the better or for the worse. This will all depend on how prepared you feel to take on let's call it a creative process that can really catapult you into a new reality that will justify all the labors you've explored, or in a positive, or it's going to justify it in ways that you don't really want it to. And you're going to start to see the depreciation of things that you appreciate versus seeing things growing and expanding, and growth in the most, things grow young, things grow beautiful, things grow in multiples. Other ways to explain it would not do it justice. So I'm going to leave that to your own ways of interpreting, and to feel it and to accept it in your being, and to know that whatever your dreams are, whatever that vision is, once you see it within yourself and you can accept it, and then you're seeing yourself taking actions towards that, trust the process, and don't get so isolated in the one thing that you're wanting to get to. Don't push the process. Learn to work around it. Learn to align to it. The art of aligning to your manifestation. Geez, it's perfect. Yes. The art of aligning to your manifestation would be to have that anchor in the bigger purpose. And then as you're filling in the blanks, going through the process, going through the experiences, you can see how you don't control the process, but you can slow it down enough to recondition the energetic vibration that you're going to pour into it. It's like purifying the water, it's filtering the water, it's cleaning the waters, it's managing the system without stopping it or without controlling it. It's slow, you slow it down for the regeneration to occur. Oh, Lord have mercy. I hope you guys enjoyed this content, because I can get lost in it all day actually. So instead of getting lost in it, I'm going to put it out there and share it with you and allow whoever loves it to love it, and hoping that it reaches so many beautiful souls. Indeed. Love you guys. Take care.